Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Pep Talk number 2. From a cloudy Amsterdam, I welcome you to this special Pep Talk on how to manage taxonomies. My name is Gert-Jan Scheers and I'm your host today. And Pep Talks aim to facilitate the exchange of knowledge between public employment systems, services all over the world. And before we start this pep talk, I have some messages or some general information for you. It's a live, interactive webinar, which means that you can ask questions and we'll try to answer the questions during this pep talk. You can see on the bottom of your screen, there is a box where you can type in your questions and they will pop up on my screen and I will try to, ask one of my fellow people to answer the questions. If you have any technical questions, please look in your screen on the top right-hand corner. There's a help and if you click there, most of the most common problems, you can find the answers there. Immediately after this webinar, it is available on demand. So either you or somebody else can watch it later at the time that is convenient to you. During the pep talk, we intend to ask 4 questions, and we hope you'll answer these questions, and we'll give you the answers during this webinar. We're happy to see again so many people who have joined us. About 60 to 70 people have registered, so we hope that everybody is watching us right now. We'll hope that the next 45 minutes will be very interesting on this topic. And let me introduce you first to my co-host, Michel.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to be here in Pep Talk 2. I'm Michel Peters, business consultant at WCC, and today we're talking about UWV and taxonomies. And my experience at UWV is extensive for several years as a project manager there before I joined WCC. So I'm hoping to contribute to today's webinar.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, then over to our host or our guest speaker today, Anke. Well, please introduce yourself. I will hand over this clicker. So
okay, thank you.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Anke Stevenhagen. I am an occupational expert at the Public Employment Service. In the past, I also worked as a vocational counselor and an employment officer at the Public Employment Service. And what we would like to discuss today... Oh, sorry, I was too quick with the button. What we would like to discuss today. What purposes do taxonomies serve? What are they used for? What are the challenges in using? And what does the Dutch, our taxonomy look like? Then what's so special about the Dutch situation? What are the main challenges we are dealing with using taxonomies, and also what are the approaches to help solve these challenges. Then I want to talk about the taxonomy match or the semantic search. Can we do without taxonomy, and can semantic search come instead? And last but not least, we talk about the national occupations classification and the mapping issues to the ESCO occupations, like the granularity and the metadata of these classifications. What do I have taxonomy? A taxonomy is organizes information, and by doing so, it needs to store terms as metadata. For example, if I have to fill in a form and there's asked for my name, I fill in Anke, that's the content, and above this entry box stands first name, and first name is the metadata of Anke. Why do we use these taxonomies? Well, it makes possible the retrieval and indexing of data in an accurate and rapid way, and helps us to answer questions like which and how many. Here you look at a bouquet of flowers. You can like it or not, but once you are asked to describe it, then questions of how which flowers and how many are to be answered. And to help you to organize the information and to answer these questions, we apply hierarchy. Usually in the occupational taxonomies, the hierarchy is a top-down tree approach. So there are root, branches and leaves, and this is from broader to more specific, like a parent-child relationship. These root, branches and leaves are comparable with the tasks, activities and skills in an occupation, and help us to recognize and understand these complex information easier. And then we have a poll.
Thank you. We have a poll. The question is, taxonomies are used a lot for reporting statistics to the government, but our question is, do you also use taxonomy for search and match? Please, go ahead.
Without a taxonomy of occupations, we should have a list of occupations, used it in resumes or vacancies, but users would have a hard time finding and understanding this information. It's like going to the supermarket where all the products are shelved by alphabetical order. So should I find the Heinz tomato ketchup shelf next to herring or to tuna fish? Of course, supermarkets group their products and help us in finding them. So if you look at sauces and spices, you will find the tomato ketchup probably. This grouping of information is also in our taxonomy. We group occupations by occupational sector, by educational level, and we also describe the occupational content in as they are the tasks, the skills, the abilities, both mentally and physically, and all these classifications are related to the main occupation, which is the backbone of our taxonomy.
How do you decide which occupations are related?
In the ideal situation, the describing elements would help generate these relations between occupations. And we tried to work it out that way. But because we don't have a hard skills taxonomy, we had problems in doing so. So we decided to do it by hand, which was quite a job. And it was done by occupational experts, but also with the help of experienced employment officers.
Okay.
On the right, you see the synonyms, also specialisms are on this more refined level, and they all relate to the main occupation and can be easily added and go along with all the classifications of the main occupation. On the left, you see a cluster of occupations. This is in fact a special product we made for orientation. And there are 3 belonging classifications: occupational sector, education level, and behavioral competencies. And these behavioral competencies are from the Universal Competency Framework from SAL. So they have a taxonomy. And we use this taxonomy because it's also used in Dutch vocational education. So we can support a little bit more the connection between education and job opportunities. An example of a cluster is the carpenters. You see the belonging main occupations like interior carpenter, construction carpenter, and you also see the synonyms and specialisms. So for instance, the shop interior carpenter is a specialism of interior carpenter. And this more refined level is suitable for search and match, because job seekers both and employers look for the most fitting vacancies and candidates. And there is a poll again.
There's a poll again, and I have the answers for you. Well, 90% of you have answered that you do use taxonomy for search and match. So, well, that's quite a lot, I think. Maybe I can immediately ask a question from the audience already. And that is, how many main occupations do you have?
About 3,200.
3,200?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's a lot. I think we have our next poll question.
I'm sorry.
Switch it. Thank you very much. And that is a question of how do you manage your taxonomy? Do you use a tool? Do you use spreadsheets? Do you have an external party doing it for you? Or maybe another way of managing? Well, please, it's your time.
By the way, our management is by web-based tooling. I forgot to tell that, but well, that is a great way to work, to develop and to update your product. What is the taxonomy used for? It's used for registration, and both from resumes and vacancies. Resumes are mostly is it self-registration, and the vacancies, a lesser part is manual, and most of the vacancies are delivered by bulk supply. And these bulk supply from job boards and temp agencies, and also from a supplier who scrapes the internet for vacancies. Well, they all have their several solutions in automatically mapping to our occupational taxonomy. And I will tell you more about that later on. Also, our taxonomy is used for searching. I will show an example later on. And for career counseling, there's an information module on the portal, and we have also products specially developed for counseling purposes. So
I see one product is called Mirror Products. That sounds interesting. What's it about?
Yes, it's well, it literally mirrors, and I will explain. These are developed for as a support for the proper use of our taxonomy for end users. And we have two kinds of products. One is a CV quality fact sheet. And this helps to improve the completeness of the registration of the job seeker. And because often job seekers only choose one occupation to search with, and the possibility is that they can choose 3 occupations. And also they have lack in their work experience or education information. And so we support them to more complete registration. Okay. And the other fact sheet is of an occupational overview. And that mirrors the individual job seeker's profile with that occupation, with all available profiles with that occupation in the database. And so we can give results as well. Other competitors of you are using this search occupation or have worked in this alternative occupation. And so we hope to support the job seeker in more adequate actions for his searching.
Yeah, those are great insights to have as a job seeker.
Yes, yes. And also the reporting, and I will show you some examples. The current search for vacancies is based on occupations. Stronger is limited to occupations if you're searching with an occupation term. Once you tick in the box, the auto-suggest pops up, and you see our main occupations, and you pick the one you want to choose. One can imagine that some problems for end users start here, because when they tick and they can find the right occupation, then they have to try alternatives, next best alternatives maybe, but that is the limitation of the use of an occupation.
They are stuck to whatever is presented in the auto-suggest. They have to choose.
They have to choose, yes. There is a way out. We have a free text search, but that's limited to the exact keyword.
Okay.
So that has also its problems.
Yeah.
But well, the result of this search is all vacancies with the main occupation or the belonging synonyms or specialisms. And also alternatives are given based on our related occupations we earlier talked about. Another example is the Competence Atlas. It's a career counseling instrument. It is developed for expert use at first, but later on we decided that end users could also use it. They choose their competences. There are behavioral competences. If they don't have insight in their behavioral competences, they can do an online test, and also face-to-face service in our competency test center is possible, especially for job seekers with greater distance to the labor market. Next, they choose their sector of interest, and then as a result of that, the cluster occupations, which have this classification related, as we earlier saw, they are shown, and the job seeker can choose the cluster of occupation of his interest, and then the main occupations with the belonging real-time vacancies from our job portal WerkNL are shown, because in the end it's all to do about jobs, of course. What are the disadvantages of the use of taxonomies as we have it in our public employment service? Well, first and for all, the taxonomy is built for expert use. And as we developed digital services, more and more end users began to use this taxonomy. And at first they had the help of the employment officers, but due to severe budget cuts and to cut back in personnel was the result of that, we had to do that. We were forced to adjust our applications more for end use without the necessity of the help of an employment officer. And then users start to complain about having problems with finding their job title or their occupation. They didn't understand, they missed things, they were advised in our customer contact center, well, then you should choose next best. Yep. And they had problems in doing that. And further on, I tell you how we examined this, but well, the result of this is that we are confronted with poor registration of occupations. About 30 to 40% is incorrect registered.
Do you mean incorrect in the sense that it's way off, or is it slightly off?
If we say incorrect, it is sometimes way off, but sometimes slightly off. But that slightly off, I think we call this acceptable. Okay. So with the help of the relations between occupations, you hope that the effect of this lesser qualitative registration is limited. Yes.
But I can imagine that registering your occupation of that you want to register and are not able to because it's not in the list, it really is a setback as a job seeker, because this is my first contact and I want to enter the job that I want to enter, and it's simply not there.
Yes.
So that's
so frustration at the start.
Yeah,
in
at the
fact.
start. Yeah.
And many complaints and also approval ratings went down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can imagine.
Other difficulties are there in the automatically mapping. One can imagine that if all kind of companies use bulk supply, we can't help them with products like mirror products. We are developing one for employers, but only is this useful in manual registration.
Yeah.
And the problem is the solutions are decentralized, so we can't manage these processes, and that's a big problem, because we know yeah, due to incorrect occupations, you have garbage in, garbage out, your results are bad. And another problem is all your related products have a lesser quality.
Yeah.
So that's quite a problem.
Everybody is trying to find the right job on their own without
Yes.
the experience, the
Yes.
expert experience. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Okay.
true.
Can I ask a question? It's from Jerke Andersson. How do you differentiate between specialization and synonyms when building the taxonomy?
They're on the same level in the taxonomy, but in our database, we distinguish them by, I will say, by a flag, so we can recognize them.
Mhm.
And we distinguish, of course, is it a real synonym? Is it equal? Then that is different than my example of the shop interior carpenter.
Mhm.
That's really a specialism.
Yeah.
So that is a difference, and we can recognize that in our database, but it is not shown to the end user, such an distinguish.
The differentiation is made
Differentiation.
or based on your expert opinion, I would say.
Yes, and yes, it is, because often there's, for example, other kind of training needed, or you have to specialize to learn it in work experience. So there is a difference. Yes.
I have another question from Ria de Ketele on how do you set the incorrect occupations good?
We can't.
You can't.
We can't really. We develop the mirror products for the job seeker end users to help them to improve registration, but because we can't, we did in fact try to manually check vacancy registration. We did it with our supplier who scrapes vacancies from the internet, because at the start of that project they had 60% correct registration, and we think, well, that's low.
Yeah.
And we had 3 years of working together with them to improve this, and we had 5 vacancy checkers who manually checked every vacancy every day, 7 days a week, and we could feed the approach of the automatic vacancy classifier. And at the end, we reached a result of about 75–80% correct registrations.
Through manual correction.
Through manual
On a
correction.
daily basis. Well,
Another question from Christian Steiner from Austria. If there are new occupations, under which perspectives would you enlarge your use taxonomy and adopt a new occupation?
It's describing content. If you notice that if you are classifying the occupation, you think it's different from the existing occupations, and you notice, I'm choosing all the same classifications. Well, then you have to decide: is it really a new one, or should I add it to an existing occupation and let it go along with this existing classifications? But in fact, this is a problem. Maybe I can give an example. In the release that's going to happen in this summer, I hope, we had a new occupation, bid manager. Well, and we discussed a lot about this, because in fact the bid manager, maybe it isn't really an occupation, but then you have to make your decisions in what is the end user helped with, and can I explain how to relate it to an existing occupation.
Yes.
And that was a difficult one, because bid managers, they can both on the side of buyer and seller have their function in work. So, it was a difficult decision. Yes, it's not that easy. It's much easier to think, oh, this is a synonym, we add it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
More questions for you, Anke. How do you know that they are incorrect?
We use the description of the vacancy, both, and the title. And employers often give us extra trouble by asking, well, I'm searching for an enthusiastic employee. So, well, a little help in the title. And then you have to read, what is he really asking for? What is this candidate supposed to do? And what is needed for that? Yeah. And you base this on the description. So in the checking tool, this was given, the supposed occupation from the automatic classifier. And on the left side, you could read the total vacancy description and decide, well, this is acceptable, or no, this is definitely incorrect. Yeah. Even if we are looking at related occupations, it won't give a good result.
Okay. I have a question for you. You could allow for free text assisted with the autosuggest. For not existing items, use search engine as fallback and you will have new synonyms.
Yeah, you could say I would allow a free text to be searched on, and at the current state at the UFA, that would give an exact text match, simple text match result. Whereas all the relations that you would like to give based on the query, you cannot, because it's a basic text search that you're doing. So the good part of it is you're allowing the user to search on whatever he or she wants. The bad part of it is I'm not relating anything to the query. So it's where it is an exact match wherever in some vacancy. And this could give proper results, but it also could give very bad results. Yes. We've seen that in the past. So we've come to talk about the semantics in search, and that's a big help to understand what the user is searching for, and have some feel for what the query actually is about.
Okay. Well, I think we owe the audience the results of their second poll.
Yep.
We have 69% of the people who say they use a tool. We have 17% who use spreadsheets, 3% an external party, and 10% use another method. So those are the results of this poll.
Most of the tooling.
Yes, positive, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are we ready for a next question to the audience? And that is, do you have experience with bulk supply of vacancies? Please answer the question. Anke.
Well, talking of all the disadvantages, as we just did, especially our team was eager on searching for alternatives in the approach of both registration and search and match. And it had to be an approach where we could eliminate the forced and limited use of the occupational taxonomy. And in doing so, we developed, together with our supplier of the match engine, WCC, a completely text-oriented approach. And we tested this. We compared the results of this approach with the current search method on Werkkanal, and we also did usability proofs, tests, and we experienced that the users were happy and even as we first thought, well, we have to do it step by step, so they will recognize the results. Well, they said, well, you could have given me the next step. It's quite reducible. I understand what I'm looking at, so it was a good approach, we think. And we decided also that even if it was in results similar to Werkenel, we had two main benefits. Well, no longer the forced use of the occupation. And the other benefit of the system is we could override the results, we could manage the results, and were no longer dependent on the release of UWV. So that were two important features.
Yeah. Because that is a question, maybe you answered that with that a little bit already, is that the question is how do you integrate real labor market terms with the taxonomy and how often is it updated?
Yes.
And that has to do with the release date or the release schedule?
Yes. Yeah. And well, that is complicated at UWV because we have to make improvements on our technical systems. We had problems in performance and all kind of other problems. So the releases, they went to grow bigger and bigger, and you had to wait longer and longer for your moment to release your updates. Yes.
Taxonomy is used at UWV in many different systems. Also the back-end system for the caseworkers, but also in the front-end that the web users use. And the old legacy systems, due to performance reasons, tend to have a copy of the taxonomy on its own. So you can imagine if you want to update the taxonomy quickly, then you have to update all kinds of local copies as well. And this means that systems need to go down and the database needs to be updated. So a lot of systems actually are involved when updating the taxonomy. It's not centralized at UWV, unfortunately. And this takes for a lot of time.
How often, how often would be ideal to update it? Every minute or? Probably not.
I would say it's nice to be able to update it on a daily basis. And have a release, I don't know, quarterly or whenever you see fit. Yeah. But currently UWV has to uphold the big release schedule, and that means once or twice a year. That's not sufficient enough.
It isn't, indeed.
Maybe before you go on, I have a question from somebody who says, what means bulk supply? So I think we need to tell that before they can answer the poll.
Well, bulk supply means that lots of vacancies in one kind of deliverance go to the portal Werkenel. We have XML feeds to produce that, and well,
you could even say a recruitment partner of UWV also delivers vacancies to UWV in bulk. So all the vacancies that they have, they are delivering those to UWV on a daily basis. And then UWV has the task to deduplicate the vacancies that they already found, but all the ones that are new, they are added. And this delivery is in bulk on a daily basis. So it's.
And how big can bulk be?
It can be a couple of thousands.
Couple of thousands. Yeah. Okay.
Good. And the number is growing because the manual registration is lesser and lesser. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
In short summary, this is what the taxonomy looks like according to professionals. It's organized, it's recognizable, and easy to use. On the other hand, this is the taxonomy according to our end user.
Yes.
And he has quite some questions, can't find his occupation, doesn't understand all occupational titles he sees, and there's no explanation going along with it. So there are problems in and frustration in using it. This is the current search, and you see the red dots, they are the occupations of our taxonomy. So both vacancies and resumes use these occupations, and data can be retrieved from them and used in related products like labor market statistics, special products, and so on. What is now the solution we were talking about earlier? Unplug a taxonomy, and can we really do that? Well, we examined the possibilities, and of course the first problem that was evident is that you need those data, because all your related products are depending on them. So the solution is not only to unplug the taxonomy for the end user, but also to classify on the back end of your processes without bothering your end users, to make an automatic vacancy classifier. And we tested this, and we developed it together with WCC. In fact, we did check manually 25,000 vacancies.
So that was a lot of work.
Yeah, there was a lot of work to train the classifier. And by doing this, we reached a quality of 80% correct registration. So we were, in this step, equal to some of the bulk supplier efforts. But we think still we can improve this classifier. So in phase 1, which we hope to implement in this summer, the effect of the unplugged taxonomy is not yet realized, because phase 2 has to be built after. We should rather have seen it the other way around, but that was not possible and is not decided to. But we hope we can build phase 2 after all, because, well, in the end you have to use both solutions to make it a real solution for the problem.
Your phase 1 solution is introducing semantic search.
Yes.
As opposed to the fixed taxonomy search or simple keyword search. And the semantic search makes for the relationships that the query is known, so that you can actually understand what the user is searching for, and relate the words to the accompanying vacancies. The phase 2 is then classifying your vacancies in a uniform and central way, so that you get a grip on the quality, which you currently don't, because everybody's trying to do it themselves. And I think for UWV the current search improvement is a big step forward, and the phase 2 is actually a big step forward in trying to get, not only trying, but getting grip on the quality in classifying all vacancies. I think that's an important step to make.
Yes, yes. Because I didn't explain yet, but the lack of the unplugged taxonomy, it's replaced by a dynamic list of job categories that help in the semantic search. So job seekers have a query, and the system relates the list of job categories to the used query. And this is all based on actual data of the vacancies that are real time. Yeah. So we can't show you right now, but hopefully maybe a next time, because it's very interesting approach. So in short, what are the advantages of Taxolist and vacancy classifier both? Well, the end user is free from the limited taxonomy, and most and for all, there's much more consistent quality by unifying the automatic vacancy classifier. And this is for the benefit of all related products, of course, very important.
And you are able to real-time manage your search results
Yes.
and the quality of your classification without having the burden of the release schedule.
Yes, we have a special tool for it, the Search Manager, and so we can make overrides. And if we say, well, that query is not related to that job category, so we override system default and say, well, we want to that it works the other way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Challenges in managing taxonomies. What are challenges in the near future? Well, I shortly ago told that we want to improve the automatic vacancy classifier because we think, well, maybe 90% of correct occupation registration would be possible. Of course, you're in the end always depending on the quality of the vacancy text itself. So that limits also a part of the good registration.
But with a manager you are able to, whereas currently you are not.
Yeah. And well, automatic extraction of the dynamic list of job categories as a first step. Well, we foresee that automatic extraction of skills, especially maybe scarce skills, is a next step in the possibilities of this approach. And well, then we would have to create a taxonomy of skills to understand what we're working with and to describe the possibilities of it.
And then you are able to build on search and go for skills matching again.
Yes. And also a challenge in the very near future is the mapping of our classification to the ESCO occupations.
We have the results of do you have experience with bulk supply of vacancies? 59% say yes, and 41 don't have experience with it yet. So that's surprising, or?
I think it's a little surprising that more than half have experience with bulk.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe if they have more employment officers and they as an
contracts
expert use their own taxonomy and type in all the vacancies. Well, if that's your chosen approach, that differs from our situation, I think.
Or maybe smaller countries don't have that much bulk coming in.
Yeah.
I have a question from Elena Areola. Could UWV give a practical example of information generation through taxonomies?
Maybe Michelle, you could.
I'm drawing a blank.
Yes. Okay.
I don't understand.
We'll have to come back on that question.
Yeah, maybe we ask if they can rephrase it a little bit and help us.
Yes. Elena, please help us. And I have another question from Karin Hakenzolner Ali. What is this query for job seekers?
The query is a keyword they search with, and we manage these queries just by looking what keywords are used. And if there are new keywords, well, the system will generate its relations with the actual vacancies and the list of dynamic job categories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, UWV has two options to search. One is the fixed taxonomy list of occupations. The second is a free text search, but that's again the simple text search. And the semantic search that they are going to introduce will introduce only one field, and that's free. And you can type anything that you want. If you type an occupation, which mostly is the case, then the semantic search will relate your query to the corresponding vacancies through the job categories that are generated.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, we're getting a little bit time constrained, but we have one more quick question for the audience, and that is: do you intend to use ESCO skill set? So it's up to you.
Okay. Okay. I promised to talk about ESCO. ESCO as it is coming soon, expected in June, first version of ESCO. And the first chance for all 28 national occupational classifications to look into it and see if they can map their own taxonomy on the ESCO taxonomy. Of course, there will be differences in the level of refinement. So there are broader and narrower, more narrow approaches. And this is always difficult in a taxonomy. I think every taxonomy has some problems in the balance of the levels. We see ESCO not as a burden, but as an opportunity. Some countries maybe look on this different, but well, to begin with, we can speak in a common labor market language. We can exchange views, and we can work together to learn about new skills and to develop the taxonomy, not of our own country, but also of the European use.
Because managing and keeping everything up to date seems quite a lot of work, and that relates exactly to the question probably from Ria de Ketele from Belgium, is how many people in the UWV are working behind the scenes?
Yeah, in my team of occupational experts, I would say 4.5 right now. Mm-hmm. FTA, full-time function equivalent. Yeah. And I think that's, well, that's quite
short-handed, I would say.
Short-handed, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. I know there are countries that have far more employees in the occupational expertise, and well, it has nothing to do with how small your country is. No. You have to have a taxonomy and update it.
It would probably make sense to make use of a general standard.
Yeah, maybe. I think that, well, for countries who have difficulties in updating it, this can be a lot of help because a lot of work is done. Mm-hmm. The descriptions of the occupations, the skills, and the related skills. So, with the help of this skills language, maybe we can automatically generate relationships between occupations. Yep. So that's a big of help.
The related question probably is also real-time managing and intervening, overriding queries. Seems like a lot of work. How does it work?
The system will count the queries that are entered. Mm-hmm. So we see that at UWV, but it's typically for many passes, that roughly 500 queries are done by more than 80% of users over the spread of a year even. Mm. So the amount of different queries is very limited. And the relations based on the queries that are most often used, they are usually done automatically pretty well, because there are a lot of vacancies for it. Mm. The difficulty for semantic search is when the amount of vacancies is scarce, and probably it's not searched for that much. And then some overriding or helping the system to improve the quality is beneficial. And I think the investment for UWV at first will be probably the first few months, quite some time, and then it will probably decline to occasional. And then the system will probably run mostly by itself. For the main part, so for the most important queries. Nevertheless, you have to check what new queries come in, and the system will highlight that.
Well, we're running a little bit out of time, but so let's move on quickly.
Then maybe the presentation. I tell this in short. ESCO is the 5th layer under the 4-digit of ISCO, and ISCO is a classification most countries use. And you see in this example the carpenters and joiners, which is the 4-digit ISCO layer, and carpenter is the occupation, ESCO occupation as the 5th layer. Mm-hmm. And you see all kind of descriptive information, and I have that a little bit more
blown up.
fit to read, blown up. And then we see, well, and that's maybe the challenge in using ESCO skills. You see that they are ordered alphabetically. And may I remind you of the supermarket. So the challenge is, and let's join our efforts as national occupational classification parties in build a skills taxonomy.
Good.
And here comes to the end of my story.
Yes. Well, then we have the results on that. Do you intend to use ESCO skill set? How many people do you think say yes from this audience?
This audience. 20.
77%.
Oh.
I would say 80, yeah.
Yeah, you would say 80.
Of people.
Percentage.
Sorry, yeah, then yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
then you're right.
That's a good
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for today's presentation.
You're welcome.
People in the audience, please check, because now we have some small evaluation questionnaire for you, and it helps us to prepare for the next one. So please take a minute to enter these questions and give us your feedback. Yes, thank you very much for being with us today. I think it was an interesting discussion, and I hope very educational for everybody. And Anke, thank you very much for excellent preparation. We enjoyed your company here very much, and I hope that everybody has learned a lot this morning. Well, again, if you missed something, you can always look back by watching it again on demand. That's about everything for today. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.
Yes.
Have a nice day.